Congress recently passed the biggest housing law in more than 30 years, and I want to ask you the question everyone in the East Bay should be asking right now. Is this new housing law actually going to change anything for you if you're buying or selling? Or is it just another headline that sounds bigger than it really is? By the end of this video, you're going to know 3 things almost nobody covering this story is telling you. Why the part everyone is cheering, the ban on Wall Street buying up starter homes, barely touches what is actually happening in most neighborhoods, and why California, and our part of the East Bay specifically, is already ahead of most of the country on this part of the law that could genuinely help over time. And there's a piece buried inside this housing bill that has nothing to do with houses at all. Once you see why it is in there, you are never going to read a headline about a big bipartisan bill the same way again. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jenn Collins. I help people buy and sell homes and figure out where exactly they want to live here in the Tri-Valley and throughout the East Bay. Most of the people we work with are relocating, upsizing, downsizing, or just trying to make a smart move without regretting it later. And that's exactly what this channel is here for. You may have seen one side say this law is the rescue that fixes housing. The other side says it barely moves the needle and got hijacked by politics along the way. Both of these takes are only half right, and the real story is going to be more useful to you than either one. So here is the question we are answering today. Does this new law actually change anything for you if you are buying or selling here in the East Bay? Let's break it down. This law is called the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, and it is the most sweeping federal housing bill in more than 3 decades. It passed the Senate 85-5 and the House 358-32. Numbers you almost never see in Washington anymore on anything. And here's the part almost nobody is talking about. This already happened. As I'm filming this bill did not just pass, it's already law. Back in June, the president delayed the official signing ceremony because he wanted Congress to move first on a completely unrelated bill. That standoff dragged on for weeks. But under the Constitution, if the president does not act within his window and Congress stays in session, the bill becomes law anyway, without his signature. And that is exactly what happened here on July 11th. So whatever you hear about this being stuck or not signed yet, that's old news. This law is not stuck, it's not pending, it is already the law. So what does it actually do? 3 big things. It pushes cities to build more housing by cutting through years of environmental review and red tape, which is the process that can freeze normal construction projects for years before a single shovel even hits the ground. It also blocks the biggest institutional investors, meaning large companies, not your average landlord, from buying up more single-family homes. And it modernizes how homes get financed, including small mortgages under $100,000, the kind of loan most banks stopped bothering with a long time ago. The headline everybody loves is that Congress just banned Wall Street from buying your starter home. Here is what that actually means in plain English. The law defines a large institutional investor as any company that owns 350 or more single-family homes. Once this part of the law kicks in around January of 2027, those companies are blocked from buying more, with some exceptions, of course. Mainly for building brand new homes specifically to rent out. Just imagine you are a young family in Dublin trying to buy your first home. You keep losing out to a cash offer that closes in 10 days with no contingencies attached. It's easy to picture a hedge fund on the other side of that bid. And sometimes that's exactly what's happening. But here is the number that almost never makes it into the headline. Large institutional investors, the ones this law specifically targets, only make up about 1% of home purchases nationally. The smaller investors, the ones who own a handful of rental houses, do the majority of investor buying, and this law does nothing to touch them at all. So is the ban bad? No. Watching a company with billions of dollars behind it outbid a family trying to buy their first home is genuinely frustrating, and I understand why people wanted this. But will it meaningfully bring down East Bay home prices? Almost certainly not, at least not on its own. You can't fix a shortage measured in millions of homes by restricting 1% of the buyers, and that gap is exactly why home prices stay out of reach for so many families, not because of institutional investors, but because of what it costs a real family trying to buy a home. One more thing worth knowing. An earlier version of this bill would have forced those big investors to sell off some of their rental homes within 7 years. That requirement got stripped out before it became law. So there is no forced sale. There's no wave of investor homes about to hit the market. Just a cap on new buying. And 15 years from now, this whole rule expires on its own unless Congress renews it. Okay, so we've covered that this law is real, it's already passed, and the part getting the most attention will probably help us less than you'd think. Before we get into the part that actually matters more for supply, grab our free buyer's guide. Just scan this QR code on your screen right now, and that will walk you through exactly how to compete and win in a market like this one. Before we keep going, 2 quick things. If you're here in the East Bay and you want someone to actually help you walk through your options instead of just guessing off a headline, my team and I offer a complimentary, no-pressure consultation. And if you're watching this from somewhere else, or if you're planning to move out of California entirely, we have an expert-vetted referral network of agents across the country that we would personally trust with our own family, and we'd love to connect you with them. Okay, back to this new law. Now, here is the part of this law I actually think matters more long-term, even though it never makes the headline. This bill ties federal money to whether cities actually build housing. Build more, and a city gets rewarded with federal dollars. Drag your feet, and that money goes somewhere else. California has already done a lot of the politically unpopular work that this law is now rewarding. Just imagine you own a single-family lot in Concord that's been zoned for exactly one house since the 1960s. Under California law today, you can already add an ADU, or an accessory dwelling unit. And in some cases, you can even split that lot and add more housing where it used to be just one house per parcel. That's not hypothetical. That law is already here, thanks to state rules our legislator passed years before this federal bill even existed. So while a lot of states are starting from a blank page, California cities, including plenty of ours here in the East Bay, are actually sitting closer to the front of the line for this new federal money. So why should you care? Because more building plus more federal dollars flowing into local approvals is one of the only things that may actually soften prices over time. Not this year, probably not next year, but it is a real genuine opportunity for increased supply here, and that's worth knowing if you're thinking years ahead instead of just this season. Now for the part that made me stop and reread this bill twice. Tucked inside this housing law is a provision that bans the Federal Reserve from creating something called a central bank digital currency, basically a government-run digital dollar all the way through 2030. Now stop and ask the obvious question with me. What does a 4-year ban on a government currency have to do with duplexes, zoning, and small mortgages? The answer? Nothing. And that's exactly the point. These massive must-pass bills that everybody loves become the vehicle for things that could never survive a vote on their own. A group of lawmakers wanted this ban, and it was not going anywhere by itself, so it got attached to the one bill almost nobody wanted to be caught voting against. Here's my read on why. Congress has already legitimized private stablecoins. Those are the digital dollars issued by crypto companies in a separate law passed this year. A government-run digital dollar would compete directly with that private industry. So whether or not this was the original intent, the effect is that the housing bill just cleared the field for private stablecoins over the next 4 years. And almost nobody reading the housing headlines even noticed. So is this bill going to change anything for you here in the East Bay? If you live in the East Bay and you're starting to think about selling right now, this law does not change your near-term picture. It is not going to flood the market with investor homes, and it does not create a wave of new buyers this year. Your timing decisions should still come down to your own life and your own numbers, not concern over this bill. If you're a first-time buyer, or if you're just trying to buy a starter home or a condo, just imagine you were choosing between offering on a condo in Pleasanton this month or waiting 2 years for this law to thin out your competition. It would not wait. A lot can change in 2 years, and we can't predict where prices or interest rates will be by that time either. Besides, the investors driving most bidding wars in that price range in this market were never the big institutional players this law actually targets. Your best move is getting genuinely competitive on financing and strategy, and not waiting for this law to change market conditions for you. If you own rental property or you're a small investor, nothing in this law touches you directly. You are not who this rule was written for. And if you're staying put no matter what, great. Nothing here forces your hand. and nothing here is going to shock your home's value overnight in either direction. If you're thinking 5 to 10 years out, not this year, the supply side of this bill, especially paired with California's head start on ADUs and lot splits, is a genuine long-term opportunity for more housing to be built here. That is the part actually worth watching, not the part with the biggest headline. But most likely, a lot of that housing will be in higher density condos and townhomes, not single family homes on expansive lots. As a reminder, I am a real estate agent, not a financial advisor or an attorney. The numbers and legislative details in this video come from congressional records and legal analyses of the final bill. The forecasts and opinions here are my professional read based on years of working in this market. They are not guarantees, and legislation like this can still be shaped by future regulation. Always check with the appropriate financial professional before you make any move based on anything in this or any other video. So to recap, the law is already passed and it's already in effect, whether you heard that or not. The Wall Street ban sounds bigger than it is. I believe that the supply side is the quieter, more important side of the story, and California is already ahead of most of the country on that. And buried inside the housing bill is a rule about digital currency that has nothing to do with housing at all. If this helped you see the bigger picture of the new housing bill, hit the like button and subscribe to our community and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. And if you know someone who only reads the headlines, share this video with them. I'm Jen with the Jenn Collins Group, and we help people make smart, confident moves here in the East Bay, whether that's next month or a year from now. If you're planning to buy or sell your home in the East Bay, I'd love to guide you through the process. Call or text me at the number below to schedule a complimentary, no obligation strategy session. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.